sailfish. Found in the Atlantic, including the Caribbean and Mediterranean, and Pacific and Indian Oceans. All-tackle Pacific record, 221 pounds. All-tackle Atlantic record, 141 pounds 1 ounce. Theoretically, this species should be the easiest of all to identify. With their namesake sail of a dorsal fin, sailfish have an appearance all their own. Unfortunately, sailfish don't always swim around with their dorsal erect, and this can sometimes lead to confusion with other fish. In the Pacific, sailfish run large, and there's the possibility of confusing them with blue marlin. In the Atlantic, large sailfish may sometimes be misidentified as either white marlin or juvenile blue marlin. Fortunately, sailfish possess other characteristics that allow easy identification, even when the dorsal fin is completely folded next to the body. First, sailfish have far and away the longest pelvic fins in the billfish family, and these are often displayed when jumping. Sailfish also have very long and finely tapered bills. Floridians don't call them spindle beaks for no reason. Even when sailfish have their dorsal fins folded tight to their bodies, they still have a very difficult time hiding them completely. You can often see part of the dorsal trailing on one side of the fish's body.
Now here's your sailfish. This happens to be about the average size of an Atlantic sailfish. Pacific sailfish will generally be bigger. Pacific sailfish average 65, 70 pounds up to 90 pounds in weight. Your Atlantic sailfish, they average 35 to 40 pounds, but can grow up to 100 pounds. The biggest characteristic on a sailfish is their sail. But the biggest problem is, most of the time, they don't have their sail up for you to identify them that way. Most of the time, the sailfish, this thing will lay right down. Actually, there's a groove along the top of the fish where he can lay his sail in. It's really there for speed. He can tuck everything in, tuck these in, and go. So when you see a sailfish, whether he's biting the bait or he's alongside the boat, most of the time his sail is laying back. Sailfish have a full bill, but you will find occasional one broke off. So the biggest identifying characteristic is the sail. One of the other big characteristics you'll see is sailfish are very narrow. Their body, the anatomy of a sailfish is very flat. They're not round like a white marlin, or they come off like some of the stripies and blues. So they're very flat, thin fish. It'd be hard to see in the water as they're laying vertically. Most of the time when you see these fish up next to the boat, they're tired. So they'll kind of get on your side and give you a better view. A lot of times when these fish feed on live bait, if you're watching them fighting live bait, they will put their sails up when they attach their baits out of the kite. Trolling, you won't see that. So you got to look for the telltale signs when it comes to identifying a sailfish.
Blue marlin. Found in the Atlantic, including the Caribbean Sea, Pacific and Indian Oceans. All-tackle Pacific record, 1,376 pounds, caught in Kona, Hawaii. All-tackle Atlantic record, 1,402 pounds 2 ounces, caught in Vitória, Brazil.
The blue marlin, generally, you'll catch them anywhere from 50, 75 pounds up to 1,000 pounds if you're lucky. Most of the blue marlins average probably 150 to 250 pounds. This specimen right here is about a 200-pound marlin. The blue marlin, of course, one of their biggest features is their sharp dorsal fin. The dorsal fin on a blue marlin comes to a very sharp point. The dorsal fin is generally about 2/3 the depth of their body in comparison. So you can see how big it really is, how sharp it is. Then it comes down and runs the length of their body. The dorsal fin also can lay down and retract down into his body. So a lot of times you won't see it standing real pretty like this, but that is one of his biggest identifying features. The pec fins on a blue marlin, as you can see, come to a very sharp point. These fins can either lay flat against their body, or they can lay them down and they'll come almost straight off the side of their body. Remember, blue marlin can retract his pec fins. The anal fin on a blue marlin also comes to a very sharp point.
Black marlin, found in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. All-tackle record, 1,560 pounds, caught in Cabo Blanco, Peru. For many, the most commonly confused species are blue and black marlin. Both species grow to colossal sizes and can be encountered in some of the same Pacific locales. However, for those who pay attention, there are several key features that separate blue marlin from blacks. Dorsal and pectoral fins are the primary features that can help you differentiate between these species. Blue marlin have a relatively tall first dorsal fin, greater than half of the fish's body depth, that comes to an acute point. Blacks, on the other hand, have the shortest first dorsal of all marlin, less than half of the fish's body depth, and it does not terminate in a sharp point. The pectoral fins of black marlin are also very distinct for two reasons. First, they're characteristically sickle-shaped and sweep back towards the rear of the animal. A black's pectoral fins are also unique in that they're rigid and cannot be folded close to the body in individuals over 200 pounds. Blues, on the other hand, have pectoral fins that are not recurved, and they don't often hold their fins close to their bodies, especially when jumping. Therefore, it pays to watch closely as a big marlin jumps, because if you witness the pectoral fins folding next to the body, you can automatically rule out the possibility of a black. Their inability to fold their pectoral fins may also partially explain the typical vertical jumping exhibited by blacks, in contrast to blue marlin that often make long greyhounding jumps parallel to the surface of the water. Overall body shape, as well as the shape of the bill, can also be informative. Black marlin, especially big fish, appear to carry a lot of their weight forward on their body, while blues tend to have a more uniform distribution of mass. Black marlin also have heavier, club-like bills than blues, which don't exhibit such a heavy transition of bill into the snout area.
Now this is a black marlin. One of the biggest things on a black marlin is usually they have a very, very thick bill, very thickened through their face, through their nose right here. One of the other distinctive characteristics is the coloring of a black marlin. They're usually a lot darker upon the bite, more of a blackish. That's why they get the name black marlin. They come up, which then comes up with a very thick dorsal fin. This is quite a large one, so you're seeing a bigger one. The smaller black marlins have a very short dorsal. So if you get a 200-pound black, it won't quite look this way. This is a very large black marlin. You can see the colors are very dark all the way through as we work back to the pec fin. But if you really notice, look at the sickle shape that the black marlin has. They also come to a point. You'll notice the pec fin sticks out away from his body. It is rigid, it will not fold in any way. It stays out like this at all times. As you follow the marlin back, you'll also notice that the anal fin comes to a point. This black marlin is probably 400, 450 pounds.
White marlin, found in the Atlantic, including the Mediterranean and Caribbean seas. All tackle record, 181 pounds, 14 ounces, caught in Vitória, Brazil.
A white marlin, when you look at his dorsal, it's very, very round. It's not sharp like a striped marlin or a blue marlin. Besides that, the striped marlin lives in the Pacific. A white marlin only lives in the Atlantic Ocean. The other characteristic of a white marlin is a round tip on the pec fin. A sailfish, sharp, blue marlin, sharp. White marlin's got a pec fin all to himself, very round. This is laying against the body. A lot of times that fin lays flat like this. From a view up top, you'll see that it's round on that end, looking from the bridge or from the cockpit down upon the fish. On the white marlin, the anal fin is also round. On the other fish, you'll see it comes sharp, back up here on the sailfish and the blue marlins. On the white marlin, this fin is also rounded.
Striped marlin, found in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. All tackle record, 494 pounds, caught in Tutukaka, New Zealand. Being able to differentiate between white and striped marlin isn't too tough, because white marlin are exclusively found in the Atlantic and striped marlin in the Pacific.
One of the biggest features on a striped marlin is his dorsal fin. The striped marlin's dorsal fin is a lot larger, a lot higher than the dorsal fin on a blue marlin. That's one of the main characteristics you'll be looking for. A lot higher, a little bit more full on the backside, and when you see him come up on the bait, it almost kind of flops behind the bait. It's not as rigid as a blue marlin's dorsal fin. Pectoral fins on a striped marlin are quite large also. When they're out, they will turn that real iridescent light blue on the top sides when you're seeing them behind the bait, but they're also quite large. Everything else in a striped marlin is going to look just like a blue marlin. It's going to have the same face up in here, The same body through here. The striped marlin, getting his name, sometimes will have great big blue stripes, and then at times their body will go light, they'll have these silver stripes. You really can't identify them by their body. You really need to look for the dorsal fin and look for these big pec fins. The anal fin is sharp like a blue marlin, but it also is a little larger.
Both striped and white marlin have very high first dorsal fins. Striped marlin have perhaps the tallest dorsal relative to their body depth of all the marlins. Even when their dorsal fin is folded close to the body, you can often get an idea of its size by noticing how far the tall portion of the fin runs down the fish's back. In addition, their dorsal fin does not come to a point, but instead has the appearance of being cut off flat at the very tip. White marlin also have very high dorsal fins, but theirs are rounded and do not terminate in any type of point. Besides its dorsal fin, a white marlin's pectoral fins are also extremely informative. White marlin have very large, rounded pectoral fins. As these fish come up to a bait on the surface, their pectorals can often be clearly seen and are so large they almost look like wings on a plane. Fortunately, whites are also very good at showing off their pectorals when conducting the aerial displays that they're so famous for. White marlin also have rounded anal fins that are also distinct from the other species of marlin. Spearfish. Worldwide, there are 4 recognized species of spearfish: longbill, shortbill, Mediterranean, and roundscale.
Here we are with a spearfish. This spearfish here happens to be a long-nosed spearfish. You'll find some spearfish with a short nose. The biggest characteristic about a spearfish is you'll notice the so-called dorsal and the sail on a spearfish. Most of the time it's relatively almost the size of their body, almost equal in length. The sail or the dorsal on the spearfish runs the entire length just like a sailfish, but it's not quite as high. The other part about the spearfish, the pec fins look almost just like a sailfish. So if you saw a sailfish in the water with his dorsal down, a spearfish in the water, they're going to look real similar. So when you're identifying it, most of the time when you see the sailfish, you'll see a lot of sail flopping back there. The spearfish, you'll hardly see any. It almost looks like a wahoo at times. They do get the stripes in them. You make the call. There's 4 species of fish here. I think the white marlin sticks out real easy. Black marlin is pretty easy. And the stripe and the blue is where it really gets hard to tell the difference. If you notice the stripey, his dorsal is a little bit higher than the blue marlins in proportion to their body. On the pec fins, there's a sickle pec fin, a round pec fin, a long sharp one, and a semi-round, semi-long, which should belong to the striped marlin. You shouldn't have too much confusion between the white and the striped marlin because they're in 2 different oceans. You make the call.
Clip number 1. Clip number 2. Clip number 3. Clip number 4. Clip number 5. Clip number 6. Clip number 7. Clip number 8. Clip number 9. Clip number 10. Clip number 11. Clip number 12. Clip number 13. Clip number 14. Clip number 15. Clip number 16. Clip number 17. Clip number 18.
The IGFA and myself would like to thank you all for coming out and for helping us with our Observer program. Good luck to all of you.